Welcome, everyone. We're just going to give people a few minutes to join. But thank you all who are here right on time. We appreciate you being here with us today. Suzette, I see that you are with us. Welcome and thank you for coordinating this. I was thinking about waiting until 5 after, just to give people a few minutes to join, if that's all right with you. And Suzette, I did enable your ability to talk to the group. I don't know if you saw that. For everyone else, we will be using the chat function today, which you should see at the bottom of your screen. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you enter into the chat box, just because we expect to have a decent sized group here today. And we'll either answer it as we go, or we'll answer it at the end based on the Q&A and just kind of where we are in the presentation. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah, hey, Suzette, I promoted you to panelist. I sent you a message on WhatsApp too, if you can hear me. But that should give you the ability to speak.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. I actually had another meeting going on. So I joined on one device. So you enabled me on that device. And then I think you saw me come on another, right? So,
yes, I did. I was trying to figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. All right. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to say hi to everybody. Welcome, KYPA members, and thanks for taking the time to have this conversation. You would have received emails from me saying that we were doing the digital communication strategy, and you would have seen where we are in the process. We kept sending updates, and finally you saw where we had a website done and we had a LinkedIn profile done. And this was because these were seen as gaps. We did the digital strategy, and the digital communication strategy said, listen, the existing Kuiper website cannot be used to do anything. And we knew this, right? So it was a reconfirmation. And it also allowed us, it gave us the opportunity to not just develop the Kuiper website using website developers as we have done in the past, but to use the opportunity to engage with a firm that has worked with investment promotion agencies across the globe and who understand that there is more to investment promotion online than website development. And that's what we've found in our work with Golden Shovel and with Research FDI. And what we've done, what we're doing today is we're giving you an opportunity to learn some of the things that we have had the opportunity to learn. I mean, there's a small working group that has been working with Golden Shovel in bringing to fruition the digital communication strategy, but we wanted to expand that knowledge so that other Kuiper members could benefit. It's not just about the website. This is about content development. It's about putting information that investors want to see. It's about refining your digital communication strategy at the national level. It's about using the resources that you have. And there, you know, I've already told Bethany, who will be our presenter today, that we don't have any resources. You know, we don't have money. So how do we do this when we have limited human and financial resources? And so Bethany is going to tell us the secret sauce. And so I'm happy that you're here, and I'm sure that you will learn a lot. So I'm going to hand over to Bethany. We only have an hour. So Bethany, it's all yours.
Thank you, Suzette. I appreciate the introduction, and we have greatly enjoyed working with you and working with Kuiper members to put this together. And now being able to share some of these best practices is why we're here today. I have joining me two very talented members from my team, Audrey Anderson and Amelia McGrady. I know we have their bios on the next slide, but Audrey is our director of marketing and Amelia is our lead publisher. So the two of them are living and breathing digital communications and marketing and attraction strategies on a daily basis. So combined, I believe we'll have a lot of insights to share with you today. Again, if you do have a question, please leave a comment in the chat box. And if we don't get to it immediately, we will certainly get to it at the end of the presentation. I also wanted to let everyone know that this is being recorded. So if any members were not able to join us today, but would like to see it, it will be available for them to do so as well. So the big reason that we are here today is obviously investment promotion. But again, real quick, Audrey and Amelia, say hi before we change the slide. Give you that opportunity.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so attracting investors, that's why we're here. How do we bring investments into your communities? And so the first thing that we have to talk about is, what do investors care about? What do they actually want to see? Because before we can even create a strategy, we need to have this in mind, because it should guide everything that we do. And the biggest mistake that we see with investment promotion agencies, whether in the US or globally, is that it's very easy to start thinking about what we need, right? So as communities, maybe we need to attract a certain type of investment. Maybe we need a certain type of development. And that's important to know. Definitely, that has to be part of the strategy. But even more important is, what do investors actually need? What do they need to see? Because ultimately, that's who we're trying to attract. So we need to speak their language. So number one, success. They want to see who else has succeeded in your community. Who else has had success? That's someone that they can relate to. Ideally, that might be someone in the same industry. But if not, maybe an industry where at least they can see the connectivities and understand that, okay, so this investment was a success. That gives me some confidence that mine could be as well. And that's one of the reasons we recommend using success stories whenever possible. And if you've seen some of the social media going out on Kaipa's LinkedIn and on the website, you'll see that there are success stories that we're already starting to share, which again are very useful, because when someone else has that success and they share their experience, it moves from you bragging about yourself to somebody else bragging about you, and how the assets or the support that you were able to offer really help their business venture succeed. Number two, access. Investors want to know, how am I going to reach my customers and suppliers? So that's something that needs to be clarified right away. Here's the access that we have, and here's how it can help you. Space. We see this all the time. Companies ask, okay, well, I might be interested in an area, but where am I going to be based out of? Where can my operations actually go? So if you have business parks, those are obviously great to promote, because they show investors that they can move into an area and set up shop quickly. If you don't, though, that's okay. At that point, our tier 2 level would be development ready sites. So that would be any type of site that has utilities and infrastructure already there, even if nothing's been built on it yet. And if you don't have that, then at least we recommend that any investment promotion agency start working with private landowners to identify pieces of property that they would be willing to sell that could be used for development projects by investors. It's very important to do that legwork up front. I know everyone is obviously tapped for time and resources, but if you have some space to promote, it tells investors immediately when you're doing your marketing activities that there's a place for them to go. Talent. Do the workforce skills match their needs? So this is industry specific, obviously tapping into the talent coming out of the university system, or mentioning obviously how industries have succeeded in your community for a long time. So there's what we call legacy talent, talent that's been, information's been passed down generation to generation, and people are maybe used to that industry. That's something to promote in your marketing as well. Incentives. If there's any financial or tax benefits to locating in your area, you want to make sure that's mentioned in your marketing materials. And support. So if they're interested, how are you going to support them and make their project a success once they're there? And data. I don't recommend leading with the data. Really great statistics, yes, lead with. If you can say X number of investment projects happened in the past 5 years, or here's a really specific talent number that we want to promote, or here's how much you're going to reduce your costs by locating here, and it's a very easy visualization, use it. Otherwise, you need to remember that you're going to hook your investors based on messages 1 through 6. Once they're hooked, then they're going to want to see your data. The thing that a lot of people make the mistake in is trying to push all that information out up front, which Audrey will tell you with the many, many marketing campaigns she's running. If you get too wordy, if you get too much information out there, people they pass it by because it's too much for them to digest in such a quick snippet. All right, next slide. So keeping in mind what investors care about, now we need to create a strategy to attract them. And this is something that everyone can do, even if you don't have a budget to hire a firm like ours. You can do this internally, and I will acknowledge up front that it does take time, but developing a strategy is worth it. The professionals that we work with, we have some podcasts we can share with you of some different success stories where they've literally said, this has been the game changer for my investment promotion agency, creating that strategy up front, because it allowed everyone to get on the same page and work together. So you start by gathering a group of stakeholders. That obviously is going to include leadership within your organization, but it should also include business leadership, educational leadership, and any political leaders who also want to participate and help to make this a success. Anyone that has a role of leadership within your community can be a valuable person to include in your stakeholder group, because you're going to gain a plurality of perspectives, which oftentimes creates awareness that can be used within the future campaign. So establish expectations with that stakeholder group right away. How long is the process going to take? A strategy on average takes about 6 months because you want to get it right and you want to be able to dig into it. So set that expectation from the beginning, letting people know what their role would be, what the desired outcome would be, and what their time commitment is. So even though this might take you 6 months, it doesn't mean your stakeholders are engaged with it every day. More likely they'll be meeting once a month. Establish that process. So in your marketing strategy, some things that you really need to hone in on are identifying what your strengths and opportunities are. Very important. So you have to imagine it, obviously, as you all know intimately, that you're competing against other communities who also want to attract investment. So what are your strengths that make you stand out? And what opportunities do you offer that maybe aren't offered everywhere? And that's why that larger stakeholder group can also be of value, because there may be strengths and opportunities coming out of the educational system, for example, that you're not fully aware of that could be part of that promotion strategy. Determine who you want to attract. So again, that's who is your ideal investor. Identify the assets you have to support their industry. This is the secret sauce, so to speak, is again, it's you, your assets, your strengths, what your target investor cares about, how do you meet their needs? You need to bring the two together. You need to close that gap. And then obviously your communication strategy tells everyone how you close that gap. So you're speaking to their needs. And that's where the important messaging comes into play. So for example, we know that talent shortages are huge right now. And one of the primary considerations that we're seeing with site selection consultants, if a community cannot make it clear up front that they have the talent to support a particular business and that they have a strategy for maintaining talent development. So again, that's people graduating from local technical colleges, for example, if a business needs technical expertise, then they won't even look at the community. They won't even present it right now, because there are businesses who are leaving areas due to a talent shortage. So that's really pressing. Knowing that that's the number one factor right now for site selection consultants and executives is really good when you're creating your strategy, because even if you realize that maybe I don't have talent to support every industry, but I'm really strong in talent for X, then that's where I would focus your energy right now, is showing them how your talent can help to solve their problem. And then obviously you want to create the collateral that supports your messaging and then implement the campaign. Now, Audrey and Amelia are going to go into really detailed steps on campaign implementation as we go forward. Okay, so here's a couple ways that you can go about conducting the strategic work. We recommend surveys, especially for people who maybe don't have a lot of time. So interviews are great. I definitely recommend interviews, but whether you're busy or your stakeholders are busy, if time crunch is a concern, sending out a survey is a really good way to gather information. It's something we did for KYPA out of respect for all of your time, because we knew that it would be very difficult to get everyone on the phone for interviews. That's why we started with that process. Some free tools, because I know finances are obviously constrained, is SurveyMonkey. You can conduct a free survey using SurveyMonkey. Just create an account. For those of you who are familiar with Google, another free solution would be for you to use Google Forms. Both of them are available at no cost to you. They both allow for graphics to be created as well, in addition to just collecting data. Obviously, there are more robust paid survey tools, but this is really a good way to start. And whether you're surveying 5 people or 100 people, Google in particular won't charge you for that. SurveyMonkey, there are limits as far as how many questions and how many people you can survey. But again, it's also a good tool and pretty easy to use. Make sure that when you do send out your surveys, you're asking specific questions that are open-ended to get thoughtful responses. So you never want to ask a yes or no question You want to make sure you're asking questions that are likely to get a more detailed response, but be as specific as you can. So for example, again, if you're trying to recruit investment in a particular industry, you certainly want to survey any existing investors in that industry. And you want to ask questions like, how have we supported your business? How have we supported your industry growth? What talent have you found to support your business growth? Where did you recruit them from? Things like that. If you can get more specific based on each industry, you're also going to be building up a library of quotes and information you can pull from in your future marketing materials. So with the target audience, with your investment buckets of who you want to attract, many of you I know already have a strategy in place for knowing who you want to go after, and that's fantastic. For those of you who don't and you're not really sure of where to start, one of the best things to do is to review the survey responses in regards to the assets that people talk about. And then trying to think, okay, if I have this particular asset, what industry is going to benefit the most from that? And then that would be the industry, one of them that you'd want to put on your list. Another recommendation we have is to look at your current business clusters. Who can support them? So for example, if you have a strong business cluster in IT, so who do they need to support the IT industry? You know, obviously we know that there's going to need to be additional renewable energy and infrastructure investments to support their growth. That would be one example. It also might speak to creating more of an entrepreneurial culture. So those are some of the brainstorming conversations that you would want to have. And again, I keep going back to the assets, with an example being if you're trying to attract solar and one of your local learning institutions has a training program for solar workers, that's a match. That's something that you really want to promote in your materials. So when you're creating that messaging to use in your campaign, be specific, focus on their needs first, not on you. Always lead with what they're most concerned about. Use images that make you stand out. I've had some really great conversations with leadership within KYPA, and I will tell you they've challenged me, you know, to make sure that we're using the best possible images. So I know that you have some really creative people within your group that also can probably provide you with some recommendations. But yeah, definitely be as engaging as you possibly can with your image, because that's what people are likely to see before they actually read the text. And brand your campaign as appropriate. If you're doing a big investment attraction campaign, it's a good idea to sometimes brand the campaign, depending on the feedback from your stakeholders. You know, especially in smaller communities, that can be a lot of fun and it can get people talking about the campaign and what you're trying to achieve. And then we're going to talk about implementing the campaign next with our great best practices. So when we talk about implementation, we're going to do a very fast overview on this before we get into specifics, but we call it the buyer's journey. It's something that's been proven to be very effective. You have to remember that any investors you want to attract, initially they're strangers. They don't know who you are. The goal is to have implementation in order to attract them to you, attract them to your site, so they become visitors. Once they're there, you want to convert them into leads. So you need to give them a reason to contact you or provide their information. Then in order to close them, you want to have a workflow process, very important, because if a lead comes in, who's it going to? What's going to happen next? How is that lead going to be cultivated? Those are things you have to have in place. And then you want to delight them. So what can we do to make sure that you are getting their success story? They come in, you provide support. This is a business we want to help celebrate, put a process in place for doing so. And one of the ways that we recommend attracting those investors, attracting strangers, are through things like content offers, guides. KYPA has some great guides that have been published, you know, one of which was updated for AgTech, which is on the homepage right now. And I know people from the social media work we've been doing for you have been asking about that and downloading it. So that's an example of a great tool that you can create and have. Testimonials, how-to articles, success stories, those are all things that can be used to attract investors. And again, to convert them whenever possible, we recommend having an automated process where people can enter their information and go into your workflow. So whether that's a newsletter sign up, or if you have a guide, if they have to fill something out in order to download it, those are all great ways to capture leads. And then this does cost, and it's not even through us. This is through third-party tools, but we use a lot of third-party tools, and we recommend them for investment promotion agencies that automate the follow-up process, because it's really difficult when you're short-staffed to remember that somebody reached out to you in October when it's December or January. And because the lead time, the close time for investment attraction is so long, it creates a lot of opportunity for human error. And no matter how well-intentioned any of us are, sometimes it's just easy to forget. So we use things like Lead Forensics and HubSpot to try to capture information and automate those processes as much as possible. That's the only thing I'm telling you about today that has a high price tag. Everything else you can pretty much do yourself, even with a very small budget.
It is an important tool to have. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
So Amelia and I will go into some best practices for social media now, and really putting your campaigns out there. So we'll start with Facebook. We'll keep this kind of simple, and we'll go a little more in depth with some of our other platforms. A lot of them are kind of the same in using like emojis or hashtags. But for all of your profiles, especially Facebook, you want to make sure you're completely setting up your profile. This is everything from your name down to the address, your contact information, description, about us sections, making sure you've got profile pictures and a cover photo, making sure all of this information matches to your website. So making sure your website also is on there, that your address is the exact same on social media and the website. You can also use keywords in your like description or about us sections, of course, in your posts too, but that can help search engines really pick up on your organization when they see those keywords. And then number two, so we got keywords. Hashtags are another way to become more visible. You can do hashtag in your region. You could do hashtag like workforce attraction, and then the platforms are just able to pick up on those and show those to people that are interested in that topic. Another important thing is tagging people and organizations whenever possible. We've seen huge success with this. When you tag someone else, all of their network sees your post. And the more people that are seeing it, the more engagement you're getting, and it's just a spiral effect kind of into success. For Facebook, you also want to create a variety of posts. So you don't want it to be only images. You don't want it to be only news articles. Kind of sprinkle in some videos, make sure it's a variety so that people aren't kind of getting bored of your content or just skipping over it when they see it, to keep them on their toes and give them new stuff each time you post. And then finally, take advantage of Facebook stories. So these you post and they're only on your profile for 24 hours. People can go and watch all the different stories that pages and people have. We recommend getting really creative with these. I mean, they're only up for 24 hours, so have fun with them and test out different things. You can tag locations, you can put up a poll. It can just be a couple of snippets of fun information, but we recommend at least testing them out and seeing what kind of interactions you're getting. And then finally, the optimal size of a Facebook post is actually between 40 and 80 characters. So this does kind of go back into number 3, creating a variety of posts. You don't want every single post to be in those character limits, but I'd have most of them or the majority of your posts. And then here's just an example of what 40 to 80 characters looks like. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly how many characters are in your post. And we'll touch on digital ads shortly too. We've really seen success with doing Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google ads. Right now, I'm mostly going to talk about Facebook and LinkedIn ads while we're in the social media part of the presentation. When you are creating ads, you don't want to show the person what they're buying or really what they're getting. You want to show why they're buying or why they're coming to you. hit some pain points, show them what's in it for them. Something that's we've seen effective is asking yes questions. So like, have you ever felt overwhelmed by this ads thing? You can see this is an example of one of our ads, and we ask a yes question, keeping it short again. And then another kind of best practice is to use numbers to catch the attention if people are scrolling. I know or Bethany was touching on that, where you can kind of sprinkle in some data without being too overwhelming.
Yeah, and I will say that this really is a very cost-effective way to advertise. Obviously, it's not free, but it does give you exposure to a broad audience for a very limited budget. You could create ads with even like a $25 budget just to even test out your ad copy and then decide how much you want to put behind it later on.
Absolutely. One important thing with ads is your targeting. So you don't want to just be targeting the whole world. In Facebook and LinkedIn, you can come up with specific custom audiences. So this can be people that have gone to your website. You can set up a pixel on the back end. It can be people that have used your app if you have an app, people that have followed you on social media or interacted with your content. You know that they're already somewhat interested. And then you can also do LinkedIn or lookalike audiences. And these are people that are similar to your custom audience. And somehow these social platforms are able to gather all of our information and figure out who is like these audiences that you've already set up. I'm going to turn it over to Amelia for LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey. So yeah, now we're going to talk a little bit about some LinkedIn best practices. So the first thing that we want to talk about with LinkedIn is kind of the same with Facebook. You want to make sure that you're completely filling out your LinkedIn page. So when you're creating or updating your LinkedIn page, you want to make sure you have your organization logo on there, a cover image, a description of your organization's mission statement and purpose, maybe a link back to your website, your location, and also the industry that you're in. All of this information is really important to have on your LinkedIn profile so that when anyone does visit your page, they will know exactly what your organization does. The next thing that we want to cover with LinkedIn is knowing the optimal size post when you're sharing content. The ideal length of posts are typically between 50 and 100 characters. If your post is more than 140 characters, then it's going to be cut off with a See More tab. So for reference, posts with just text will be cut off after 5 lines. And then all other posts, maybe a post with like an image or a video, are going to be cut off after 3 lines. And then the next tip that we have is knowing where to put your links when you're sharing content on LinkedIn. So where you put your links on LinkedIn really matters, and it can actually have a pretty big impact on the amount of engagement that you might be getting on your posts. So we recommend to put the links in the comment section instead of in the post itself. By putting the links in the comment section, you are greatly improving the chances of getting more impressions.
We can show an example of this in a little bit.
Yeah, we have a slide that has a quick example of showing impressions and how to get more comments and stuff like that. And I can go a little bit more into detail on that as well when we get to that. And then when you're sharing content to LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you're posting relevant and interesting content. So people who are on LinkedIn are looking to both grow and learn from the content that's being shared. So you want to make sure that your posts are doing just that by posting this really relevant and interesting content to what they might be looking for. So on LinkedIn, it's typically okay to use a little bit more of the jargon and industry specific language. It shows proof that you're knowledgeable about what you're sharing content on. And then another thing that we want to touch on with LinkedIn is joining groups and also inviting your network to follow your page. Groups are a really, really useful tool on LinkedIn. You just want to make sure that you're joining relevant groups to your industry and also posting all of your important updates and content here. And then you want to invite people to follow your page. This is a really great way to grow your network and expand your followers, and also make sure that you're getting any followers on LinkedIn who might be interested in your content. So you can invite them to follow your page.
Really quick comment on this.
Yeah,
We saw a huge success with this for Kaipa. So we went and connected with a bunch of site selectors. Maybe some of you already have selectors in your connection list, and then you can go to your organization page and invite them to like that page. We had, I think, really close to, if not over 100 people follow it within only a couple of weeks of starting the page. So
Which is actually really, really good numbers. And that's to Audrey's point, because this is all we do is work with investment promotion agencies. We obviously have networks of site consultants, which is a primary group that decides where investment projects go. So we really wanted to make sure that that audience in particular was connected with KYPA as quickly as possible. So we've gone out and we've done that for you, inviting them one-on-one to follow KYPA's page. But we certainly recommend both for KYPA and for your individual LinkedIn pages that you do the same. Anyone in your network who is a site consultant, a developer, an investor, an industry leader, take the time to send them an invitation on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy to do if they're in your network. It's just a little bit of time, but it's no cost to you. And once they follow you, they're going to see your feed every time you post. So putting that effort in, maybe spending a day doing it, is going to have no cost exposure for you later on.
Yeah, definitely. The next thing that we wanted to touch on is knowing when the right time to post on LinkedIn. This can be kind of a tricky roadblock for some people, especially if you haven't been posting on LinkedIn before, so you're just not really sure what might be working best for you. So posts scheduled in the morning have actually been shown to have higher engagement. With this, though, you can definitely do some testing. So we recommend posting a couple times throughout the day for maybe a couple of days in a row, so you can see when your posts are getting the best engagement. And then the last thing that we have as a key point for LinkedIn is using hashtags and tagging people in your posts. So hashtags should be used sparingly on LinkedIn. Typically, we recommend 3 to 5. And then tagging people can be really helpful, as there's now a higher chance that these people that you're tagging are going to be interacting with your posts. And there's also a higher chance that they're going to be directed back to your LinkedIn page.
oops.
So just to dive a little bit more into LinkedIn and completely finishing up your profile, we just wanted to quick mention that pages with complete information get 30% more weekly views. So we just really want to hit it hard that you want to make sure that all of your information is completely filled out on LinkedIn. And then another thing that we have is you can actually associate up to 3 hashtags with your page. So here we have an example. You can see we have hashtag #econdev, hashtag community development, and then hashtag economic development. So these are 3 hashtags that we might have associated with our LinkedIn page. And this means that you're actually only able to comment and interact with posts that have these 3 hashtags, or posts that you might be tagged in. So this means that your organization has these 3 hashtags, and you can interact with other posts that have the same hashtags. So that's why it's really important to pick hashtags that are relevant to your industry and also to your followers. You can change these though. So again, this is something that you can do some testing with and see which hashtags might be working best for you. So here is the example that we were talking about with the links. So you can see the first example, we have the link in the actual post itself, and it only has 55 impressions. But if you look at the second example, the link is actually in the comment section, and this post just has so much more interaction with it. It has 2 comments, it has 7 likes, and it has 178 impressions. So with this, you just want to make sure that you are putting something in the post itself, directing people to the comment section for that link. This can be as simple as just saying, see the comment section for the link.
And we've actually gotten questions on that. How come the links aren't in the body of the text? And it's literally just because the algorithms almost penalize you if it is, which is a very odd thing, we know. But our job is to tell you how it is, regardless of how strange it may be, and just make the recommendation that you put it in the comments instead.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the point 2 of making sure you have variety in your posts. So if LinkedIn, for example, sees you're only posting news articles with a link, they're probably not going to be showing your content as much as if you're maybe showing one article this week and you're showing 3 pictures, you're tagging someone in another post, putting the comment in or the link in the comment, kind of hiding it from LinkedIn. So again, just getting that variety is really helpful.
Okay. And then the next thing that we wanted to touch on quickly with LinkedIn is using the analytics tab on your profile. This is really helpful because here you can see like visitor metrics, you can see demographics, you can see updates, and then follow metrics and demographics, and also some different organizations that you should be tracking. And then just again, touching on that relevant group, since it is so important, you want to make sure that you are posting all of your important updates and content here, because then the right people will be seeing that. And also there's more of a chance that you'll be directing people back to your LinkedIn page as well.
Yeah, and you obviously see that we're spending a lot of time chatting with you about LinkedIn. The reason why is because if you don't have a budget and if you have limited resources, this is the best platform for you to spend your energy on as an investment promotion agency. For very simple reasons, your audience is on LinkedIn. The investors you want to attract, the site consultants that will bring them to you, they're on LinkedIn, both as individuals, plus their companies, plus they're involved in industry specific groups. All of this work that we're talking to you about for LinkedIn, you can do yourself for, it does take time, but no cost, right? So once you set the profile up, if you have someone assigned to maybe go into LinkedIn 3 days a week at least, and spend an hour on LinkedIn 3 days a week, you are going to see results. You're going to see movement. You're going to get more people to like your page. With the groups, I want to just expand on that a little bit. It's another thing we're doing for Kaipa. You want to make the post first on your own page. Then you're going to get the link to share the post. And then if you've joined 10 groups, you need to go into those groups and you need to paste in the link to your post on your page, because it'll populate in the group feed. Almost imagine that group feed like your Facebook profile feed, right? But the only thing that's posted is what members post is on that feed. People will click on it, it'll go back to your LinkedIn profile. It gives you the opportunity to get more followers. Again, the more followers you have, the more you're in front of people at no additional cost to you. With the groups, you want to join at least one LinkedIn group that is specific to every industry you are trying to attract. These are industry focused groups. A lot of times they're also industry and geographically focused groups. So if you know that you've had success attracting investment from a certain area of the world, you should be in groups for that industry and that geographic area. You may also find that there's more broader groups that you want to join. For example, in the broad investment groups or entrepreneur groups, startup support groups, things of that nature. And just remember, when you're posting in those groups, you want to try to be specific to your audience. So if you're trying to attract 3 industries, the IT industries might not care as much about the posts that you're trying to share related to renewable energies. If you are posting about it, you want to try to make that link for them. You know, this is why there's integration between the 2 industries. Do the work for them so they don't have to put in a lot of effort to think it through to see why it's relevant. But again, have someone in your organization go in a couple times a week, spend 1 hour at a time. Once that post is made, there's that list of groups that they would have already joined. It's already going to be there for them. They just click through them one at a time and reshare that post. And then when you can, you obviously want to read and comment other group members on other group members' posts, because that's going to show that you're actually there to establish relationships instead of just trying to push content out there. And the more you can establish those relationships, the more they're also going to pay attention to what you post.
Definitely. And then the last thing that we're going to touch on with LinkedIn is actually putting out the content itself on your LinkedIn page. So first of all, I want to touch a little bit on photos and videos. You want to make sure that you are posting some photos and videos with all of your posts, just because it can be an eye catcher and it can grab people's attention. You just want to make sure that you're not using the same content for multiple posts. You want to make sure that you're switching up your photos or your videos, whatever you choose to use. And then we also recommend to post at least once a week to LinkedIn, if not more. And then another thing that we have is the LinkedIn stories. So Audrey touched a little bit on this with Facebook stories, but LinkedIn also has its own version. So these are more of a personal engagement method, but they can be a really great way to reach your audience. Don't be afraid to get creative with these, though. As long as you're keeping your content professional and relevant, this can be something else that you test out for a little bit and see what your audience really reacts to, whether that might be posting updates or maybe a quick survey or a poll, or just posting some relevant content with a new product launch or something like that. And then again, we have the hashtags, tags, and emojis. I talked a little bit about those, but you want to keep your hashtags limited, typically 3 to 5, and then tagging people so they're being directed back to your content. And then touching quickly on emojis, posts without emojis usually do a little bit better on LinkedIn, but every so often you do really need to get the attention of your followers. So typically one popular emoji can be used in a professional situation. And then again, I know we've talked on it a couple times, but you really want to invite your network to follow just because that's another really big key item with LinkedIn.
I know a lot of people are sometimes surprised to see that we should use use emojis, especially more so on like Facebook or Twitter. I know everyone's initial thoughts are like, oh, just the smiley faces, or you don't really think about all of these types of emojis that really can be used in a more professional way. Just one, grab attention, and two, just provide one more visual element. And then we do have a social media best practice ebook that goes even more in depth with everything that we're going over today. So we'll be giving you a link at the end for that.
We realize we only have an
Awesome.
hour to be with you. So we're providing you more resources you can look through on your own.
Yeah, there's just so much detail with social media. So, okay, awesome. So now we're going to switch over and talk a little bit about some Twitter best practices. So again, it's really, really important to make sure that you have your profile completely filled out. So for Twitter, this includes having a profile picture, a cover picture, a link back to your website and other social media profiles, a bio with SEO keywords, your location, your organization hours, and then also a relevant handle to your organization. Another thing that's really cool with Twitter is that you can pin important tweets to the top of your profile. So once you start posting, you can kind of pin maybe something that's super relevant or something that's happening really soon. This is going to be the first content that anyone sees when they come to your page. So you're just going to be wanting to pin any content that's really important. And then the next thing with Twitter is using the optimal size post when you're creating content. So for Twitter, it's a little bit tricky because you have that character limit. So the optimal Twitter post is typically between 70 and 120 characters. Posts that are these sizes will help improve overall engagement. But again, since you're only allowed to use 280 characters on Twitter, there's a time and place for using more or less than the 70 to 120 characters, but that's typically the most recommended. And then we have hashtags and mentioning also on Twitter. So hashtags can be pretty effective on Twitter, especially when you're referencing a specific topic. 2 to 4 hashtags is typically the preferred number, since again, you have that character limit. You don't want to be overdoing it with the hashtags and then missing out on important content in the actual post itself. And then mentioning other people and organizations is really good for drawing attention back to your posts in your page. By doing this, you are giving yourself a higher chance of people just interacting with your posts and maybe retweeting it or liking it or commenting on it, and then also getting directed back to your page. So it's kind of all about directing the attention back to you and your page and your content. And then knowing the right time to post is, again, a little tricky with Twitter since it's so different from LinkedIn and Facebook. People on Twitter might not be on Twitter during the day like they are with LinkedIn. So the best times to post on Twitter are typically between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then again between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. So these are typically the hours before and after work.
Perfect. And I will I will say we're gonna have to cruise through Twitter. We're gonna send you the slide deck too, because we don't want to go over. But with all of these platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, you can use an automated process to schedule out posts ahead of time. They don't perform as well as if you manually go in and do them, but if you're pressed for time, use a scheduling tool. Something like Hootsuite or Social Pilot can be utilized where you input your profile accounts, and then maybe you create 10 posts at a time. You go in and schedule them out. So then you're not having to manually remember. And then obviously you could do that, say every Monday or every Friday, which for IPAs that are very strapped for talent and time, that can be useful.
Absolutely. We'll finally just touch a little bit on images and videos. In our ebook, we go over the specific sizing recommendations. They go for everything from like the recommended size for your profile picture to your posts to like video ratios. That's all in the ebook, but we're not going to go through that in the slides. But really coming up with a variety of images and videos will be helpful to you. We have noticed that pictures with faces tend to do the best, but you do want to, again, switch it up. So maybe including some images like of your city, of agriculture, however you can kind of get a variety of posts. You can also create graphics like the one in the middle here. And there are different platforms you can use to create your graphics or to come up with some free Shutter or some free stock images. Shutterstock is one of them. Canva is a free platform we like to use for creating graphics.
And I will jump in to say that if you don't have a good image library, your partners, people you work with, may have images. So for example, for Kaipa, we really needed a good talent photo. And so I reached out to the University of the West Indies and I looked through a bunch of stuff they had on social media. And I specifically asked if we could use an image that they had of graduates. You may have seen this on Kaipa's LinkedIn page, and it's incredibly engaging. It tells the story immediately of top talent because they're in their full, graduation regalia. It's a group, they're happy, they're smiling, you can see their face. And so, Kaipa didn't have to go out and get that. We just had to ask for permission. So a lot of times that's a good place to start. Just look at people that you work with, businesses, partners, check out their social media, check out their website. And if there's an image that's really great, just ask for permission. More often than not, they'll say yes.
And it is a little bit better practice to use images that you've taken or that someone has taken versus getting stock images. But there are so many stock images out there. I'm sure you can find one or a good handful that look just as great. Finally, one last thing for the video. This image in the bottom right is an example of the ideal video that you want to be putting out. So having your video right in the middle, leaving some space on the top and the bottom for a large headline catching people's attention. They know exactly what the video is about. And then some space at the bottom for subtitles to go in. A lot of social platforms automatically just put the subtitles in. You can upload your own if you want to. But there's many people that are watching videos on their phones or computers where in their place where they can't have sound on. So subtitles are great.
Yeah, absolutely. Audrey, I'll take this one because I know we need to cruise.
Yep.
So public relations best practices. This is also what we've been working on with Kaipa. This takes time. This is the aspect that takes the most time. But you need to create relationships with media outlets locally and internationally that may cover interesting stories or announcements that you have to make. So the first step is obviously finding those press contacts. Use a database and keep updating it. Your partners likely have press contacts as well, so ask them. Find related news coverage and keep track of who's covering it. You can then reach out to them directly, which is something that we have done successfully. And then just stay in touch to form those connections. They most likely will not accept your first one or two press pitches. The point is to be persistent and keep going. When you create your media pitch, you need to be concise. Start with the most important information or compelling fact about the project, opportunity, or event. Remember, they're looking at media pitches all day long. So you need to be able to tell them what's going on and why they should care and why their audience will care within a couple sentences. So write it, edit it, shorten it, get to the point, and you can even reach out to them on LinkedIn. So that's another great way to do so. And be sure to be timely. So obviously with the media, they want to get out ahead of things. So if you know something's going to drop, you could even send a media pitch saying the name is confidential. Let us know if you want to cover it and we'll give you more details. So that way they can get a jump start on the story and be one of the first to release it. And as far as case studies, we only have 4 minutes left, and I do want to open it up to questions. So we're going to send you this presentation. We're also sending you the link to the ebook. This will all probably actually come out from Suzette, but you will have all of these resources at your disposal to go through and take a look at as often as you need. And we'll also be sending the recording to this meeting. With that, I do want to thank everyone for their time today and open it up again. If you have any questions, please add them to the chat.
And the link is also in the chat if you want to copy and paste it there. To the ebook.
Oh yes, thank you, Audrey. So everyone can just go and see the chat. You can copy and paste that link into your browser and get access to it immediately. Suzette, is there anything that you wanted to say in the 3 minutes that we have remaining?
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. It was a lot to digest in a very short space of time. But if you were to identify the top 3 things that any IPA within the Caribbean can do, because I know that we all can't do Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at the same time. And we're barely managing at the moment. I mean,
Sure.
What would be the top 3 things that you think we could do to take our social media work to another level?
So LinkedIn. Create your LinkedIn.
Those are 3. That's it.
Yep. And I mean it, because I get it. I know that time is limited and I know budgets are limited. If you can only do one thing, create your LinkedIn profile, make sure it is 100% complete, that links to your website and contact information. Post on LinkedIn at least 3 times a week and join the groups like we were talking about, so you can share your posts within those groups. As that is the #1 thing you need to do. And every single staff member should be asking, once the profile is created, everyone in their LinkedIn network to follow the page. And all of you should ask everyone in your LinkedIn networks to follow the KYPA page. Because as they do, then their connections are going to become exposed to it as well. That's it. That is the #1 thing you can do for the best impact at the lowest cost and with limited time.
We did get another question. What is our experience with results with LinkedIn ads and Google ads? Did you want to take that, Bethany, or do you want me to?
I'll let you. Yeah, that's your
Okay.
specialty.
Okay. You can get so many great leads for such a low budget. We've noticed, like, you go to a trade show or conference or something and you can try making connections and you're spending thousands of dollars at that. Or you can do these Google and LinkedIn ads and be spending a couple dollars and get tons of leads.
And she means a couple $100.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
specify.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but one lead could be only 50 cents. It could be $1. And so if
I
you
will,
put
and I will
100
say, as far as
leads,
like cost
hundreds
per
of-
click, yeah, as far as cost per click goes, because somebody just asked about Facebook. So you can get Facebook impressions for the least amount of cost out of all of these different platforms. The only concern with Facebook is that it's not going to be specific to your ideal investor audience. So if you're trying to create broad recognition, then you have, again, limited budget. You can spend $25, boost a Facebook post, you'll get that broad recognition. However, if you are trying to reach your specific target audience, those investors per industry sector, LinkedIn is going to be your best bet, only because it allows you to create those category drop downs where you can choose geographic location, industry specific, and even role or title within their organization. So you're only reaching, say, upper level managers and decision makers. However, because they give you that option, it's more expensive. So that's the other flip side of that. And I think Google comes in at a happy medium, where Google is definitely much lower cost than LinkedIn on average. And it gives you the ability to reach a broader audience based on keyword. So you can't guarantee that you're going to reach the decision makers, but at least you know they're people that are searching for specific keywords that are relevant to the industries you're trying to attract.
Mhm. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And then we'll let you go because I know y'all have.
someone said they started
do.
using Sales Navigator. Oh, that was just a comment. They're using Sales Navigator and getting some leads. I'd follow it up with just saying, like, make sure you're keeping track of those leads
Mhm.
and nurturing them to, like, in that buyer's journey, getting them to see more of your content and hopefully converting them into a customer or client sometime.
Exactly. Well, and thank you again so much for attending. We are available to follow up with more questions. But again, you're going to get 3 resources from this. You're getting the webinar, the ebook, and you're also getting this recording. So again, thank you. I know that we gave you a ton of information and we greatly appreciate your time and everyone being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
colleagues. Thank you. Thank you, Golden Shovel. Thank you so much. Bethany, Audrey, Amelia. You guys have been doing a really good job in helping Kaipa to position itself at last. You know, it's been an uphill struggle for us, but you've been helping us to finally position ourselves, and we're really appreciative. Colleagues, if you have follow-up questions, please email them to me. I also copied Bethany on the emails that I sent out. So if you want to shoot her a question directly, you can do so. And let us know. We'll be sending out a feedback form. Let us know your thoughts as well on this session and on any information, additional information you'd like to have. All right, have a very good rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye, thank you.